The day my life imploded started with a laugh that I would never hear again. I remember staring at the white lilies lining the church aisle, pretending they were just decorations while my stomach twisted in a knot I couldn't name. It was supposed to be my happiest day. The day I married Ryan, my fiancé of 3 years. Instead, it turned into a spectacle of betrayal so blunt, so cinematic. I half expected someone to yell cut. At the end, Ryan had disappeared, like a ghost slipping through my fingers. Texts, calls, nothing. And then, as if the universe had a cruel sense of timing, a mutual friend dropped the bomb. He had run back to Jessica, his ex-girlfriend, right before the ceremony. My heart stopped. I think I even laughed out of shock, out of disbelief, out of an absurd, tragic sense of irony. I sat on the cold marble steps of the church, clutching the bouquet like it was a life raft, watching my dreams dissolve in the sunlight. Bridesmaids whispered, gossiped, their faces a blur of sympathy and awkwardness. I wanted to vanish. No, I wanted to scream, but the sound lodged somewhere between my throat and my chest. 2 weeks later, after living in a haze of Instagram detox, zero contact, and endless takeout, I booked a solo trip to Portland. Maybe I wanted to disappear, to run, to convince myself the world didn't know I had been publicly humiliated. Maybe I just wanted to feel alive again. The flight was uneventful, though I do remember the tiny spark of excitement when the plane descended over the city green hills and streets winding like ribbons, bridges arcing over water. A fresh start, I told myself. On the first evening, I wandered aimlessly through Old Town. The streets smelled of roasted coffee, wet asphalt, and the faint sweetness of pastries from a corner bakery. I found a small park tucked between brick buildings, lights twinkling like stars trapped on Earth. I sank onto a bench, letting the chill breeze run through my hair. And then I saw him. He was sketching, notebook open on his lap, pencil moving like it had a mind of its own. Light brown hair fell over his forehead in a casual, effortless way. His eyes were a soft hazel, warm and probing, like he could see the ache behind my carefully maintained composure. I wanted to look away, but my body betrayed me. I kept staring. He looked up, and our eyes locked. There was a flicker, almost comical in its timing, of recognition, not personal recognition, but the kind that says, I see you, and you're hurting. He smiled, small, tentative, and I felt a pang of something foreign. Hope, curiosity. I wasn't sure, but I wanted to sit there forever and watch him draw. Hey, he said, voice soft, melodic, with a slight lilt I couldn't place. Do you mind if I... He gestured to the empty space beside me. I blinked. No, go ahead. He settled next to me, shoulders brushing lightly. That brush sent sparks up my arm, electric and unnerving. I cursed inwardly. I wasn't ready for anyone. And yet, here he was, calm, inviting, without judgment, like he had been waiting for me to notice him all along. I'm Alex, he said, extending a hand. I hesitated, then took it. His grip was firm but gentle, the kind that makes you think he's steady enough to catch someone falling apart. Evan, I replied, and just saying my name aloud felt strange, heavy with the weight of my past days. For a while, we sat in silence, him sketching, me watching the shadows grow longer across the grass. I wanted to ask him everything, tell him everything, but instead, I just breathed. And in that quiet, the world didn't seem so sharp, so cruel. You're here alone? Alex finally asked, glancing at me with curiosity, a hint of something playful hiding under the concern. I hesitated, then nodded. Yeah. Needed a break from life. I shrugged, trying to sound casual, though my voice cracked like fragile glass. He tilted his head, studying me. Life can be a mess sometimes, but sometimes, the mess brings the best things. I laughed, a brittle, ironic sound. You make it sound like a cliché. Maybe, he admitted, smiling, but clichés exist because there's truth in them. I wanted to argue, to tell him that truth was overrated, that love had betrayed me, but I couldn't. There was something in his eyes that made the walls I had built around my heart feel unstable, like they might fall away if I wasn't careful. You're an artist? I asked, nodding at his notebook. Trying to be, he said, with a shrug that suggested modesty, though his skill was obvious. The sketches were fluid, alive, capturing the light and shadow of the park in ways that made me wish I could step into the pages. We talked for hoarser maybe minutes. I lost track. Conversation flowed like water over smooth stones. He asked about my life, my interests, my failed love story, though I didn't go into the humiliating details. I wanted to, part of me screaming to share it all. But another part of me was terrified of being vulnerable. Alex didn't push. He listened. He smiled at the right moments, tilted his head, laughed softly. His presence was comforting, magnetic. As night fell, streetlights flickered on, casting golden halos around the benches and trees. He turned to me, a question in his eyes, unspoken, and before I could think, I found myself leaning slightly closer. He mirrored me, and then our hands brushed just a touch. Accidental, electric. My heart seized. I shouldn't, I murmured, more to myself than to him. Shouldn't what? His voice was barely above a whisper. Feel like this, I admitted, the words tumbling out like reckless confessions. Feel like what? He prompted, still gentle, patient. This, I said, gesturing vaguely between us. Like I could actually want someone. After everything. He smiled, slow, reassuring. Evan, sometimes the right person shows up when you least expect it. Not to erase the past, but to make the future worth waiting for. The words hung in the night air, heavy and sweet. I wanted to believe them. I wanted to trust him. My chest tightened not in fear, but anticipation. We didn't kiss that night. We didn't even talk about kissing. But something had shifted. A spark ignited, fragile and bright, between two broken hearts that weren't quite whole but were willing to try. As I walked back to my hotel, the city lights reflected in the wet pavement, and I realized for the first time in weeks that maybe, just maybe, life had more to offer than heartbreak. And Alex was proof that sometimes, the universe had better plans than we ever could. The next morning, Portland felt different. The city didn't just exist, it seemed to breathe around me. Full of possibilities. Full of Alex. I couldn't help but think of him constantly. His soft hazel eyes. The way his fingers moved over the sketchbook. The warmth in his smile. And yet, there was a cautious part of me whispering, don't get attached. He doesn't know you. You're broken. I wandered through the Pearl District, coffee in hand, the chill air biting at my cheeks. Every little thing reminded me of our encounter. The sunlight glinting off a puddle, the distant laughter of street performers, the rustle of leaves in a small park. I found myself smiling without realizing it. This was dangerous territory. As if sensing it, my phone buzzed with a message. Not from Ryan. Not from anyone from home. From Alex. Good morning, Evan. Did you survive Portland's coffee? I promise there's more than one cafe worth your time. Want to explore the city with me today? My heart raced, and for a moment, couldn't respond. The simplicity of the message, The casual invitation felt like an anchor thrown into the stormy sea of my emotions. I typed back, careful not to overdo it. Morning. I think I can survive. Sure. I'd like that. He responded almost instantly, great. I'll meet you at Voodoo Donut in 20. 20 minutes later, I found him outside the shop, holding his sketchbook like it was part of him. He waved, and my stomach did that ridiculous flip that made me hate how predictable my own body could be. Hey, I said, trying for casual. My voice probably betrayed me anyway. Hey, he replied, grin wide, eyes twinkling, ready for sugar and regret. I laughed. Regret first, sugar later. He rolled his eyes, but it was playful, and I wanted to melt under it. We'll compromise. Sugar first, regret after. You'll thank me later. We walked inside, a cacophony of pink frosting and neon lights assaulting the senses. I felt absurdly alive, intoxicated by sugar, sunlight, and the rare sensation of someone's presence feeling like home. Alex ordered something complicated I didn't even understand, and I laughed at his inability to make a simple choice. Don't judge me, he said, mock offense in his tone. Life's too short to be serious about donuts. I shook my head. Fair. But you're lucky. You've got me to balance your chaos with a little judgment. He chuckled, and the sound sent shivers down my spine. For the first time in weeks, I let myself breathe fully, deeply, without the weight of betrayal pressing down on me. We spent the day wandering the streets, exploring little bookstores and vintage shops, laughing at the quirks of street performers and arguing about the merits of Portland's infamous coffee culture. There was something unspoken in every glance, every accidental brush of our hands against each other. It was electric, dangerous, addictive. By mid-afternoon, we found ourselves at the waterfront, the Willamette River reflecting the afternoon sun in waves of gold and silver. We sat on a low wall, legs dangling over the edge, watching boats drift lazily past. I noticed how his hair caught the sunlight, turning strands golden. I wanted to reach out, touch it, but I didn't. Not yet. Do you ever worry about letting people in? He asked suddenly, voice low, almost vulnerable. I looked at him, startled. All the time. Why? He shrugged, eyes on the water. I guess sometimes people hurt you, or leave, or don't care. It's easier to keep walls up. I know that feeling, I said quietly. Walls can feel safe until they trap you inside. He turned toward me, and for a long moment, I thought he might kiss me. Our faces were close, breaths mingling. My heart pounded. But then he smiled softly, leaning back just enough to break the tension. Safe isn't always bad. But maybe we don't have to stay trapped forever. The words lingered, heavy with promise. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, I could trust someone again. That night, we ended up at a small jazz bar, dimly lit, with soft music swirling around us like smoke. We shared a table tucked into a corner, drinks in hand, talking about everything and nothing. I told him bits about my life, careful to avoid the humiliating details about Ryan and Jessica. But he asked the right questions, made me feel like my story mattered. When the music slowed, he reached across the table, fingertips grazing mine. I didn't pull away. The simple contact was a revelation. Promise. An unspoken agreement that we were both here. Together. Willingly. Evan. He murmured, voice low. Can I ask you something? Anything, I said, breathless, my chest tightening in a way that was both thrilling and terrifying. Would you come to the park with me tomorrow morning? Early. I want to show you something I've been working on. I hesitated, caught between the rational part of my brain and the reckless, desperate part that craved him. Yeah, I'd like that. The next day, I woke early, heart thrumming with anticipation. Portland mornings were quiet, soft, and cool. I made my way to the park, spotting Alex immediately. He was already there, sketchbook open, completely absorbed. "You're early," he teased, though I could see the happiness in his eyes. "I didn't want to be late," I said, smiling. He held the sketchbook toward me. On the page was a detailed drawing of the park, the trees, the river, the benches, but in the center, unmistakable, was a figure that looked like me, sitting on the bench, as lost in thought. "You drew me?" I asked, stunned. "I tried to," he said, a little shy, a little proud. "I wanted to capture the way you looked when you're you. Relaxed, not hiding behind walls." I felt a heat rise to my cheeks. "It's amazing." He shrugged modestly, but I could see the pride in his eyes. "Thanks. I just wanted you to know I see you." "I see you too," I whispered, and it felt dangerous, exhilarating, utterly honest. We spent the morning walking through the park, talking, laughing, sharing little secrets and stories. I felt myself falling slowly, carefully, like water seeping into cracks in the ice of my heart. Alex's presence was a balm, a gentle insistence that life could be sweet again, that trust could be rebuilt. By afternoon, we found ourselves sitting on a hill overlooking the city, the skyline a patchwork of sunlight and shadow. He leaned slightly toward me, shoulder brushing mine. I didn't pull away. My hand found his, and he intertwined our fingers. The contact sent electricity through me, and for the first time in weeks, I felt truly alive. "I don't want this to be a fling," I admitted quietly. "I don't know how to do this, but I know I want it with you." He turned to me, eyes wide, warm, searching. "Evan, neither do I. But I want us. If you'll have me." I smiled, heart racing, leaning closer. "Then we'll figure it out together." Our lips met, tentative at first, then with growing certainty. A kiss that held months of heartbreak and hope. Time seemed to pause. The world shrank until it was just the two of us. Breath mingling, hearts racing in tandem. The days that followed were a blur of exploration, laughter, and gentle intimacy. Alex showed me hidden corners of Portland, little cafes, bookstores, and quiet streets where we could just exist together. Each moment felt monumental, each touch electrifying. One evening, as we sat on a rooftop watching the city lights flicker like fireflies, he whispered, "Evan, I know we're new, but I feel like I've been waiting for you without even knowing it." Tears pricked my eyes. "I think I've been waiting for you too." We held each other close, the world stretching out endlessly around us. For the first time, I believed that love could be gentle, patient, and thrilling all at once. Even though my heart bore the scars of Ryan's betrayal, Alex made me believe in trust again. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of falling. That night, as we walked back to my hotel, hand in hand, I realized something crucial. Life didn't just give you heartbreak. It gave you second chances, quiet miracles, and the people who made your soul feel whole again. Alex squeezed my hand, a silent promise in the twilight. And I knew, without a doubt, that he was worth every risk, every leap of faith. By the end of the week, we weren't just two strangers who had met by chance in Portland. We were a team, partners in mischief and in quiet moments, lovers who had found each other in the midst of chaos. The city had witnessed our laughter, our tentative confessions, our growing trust, And as I prepared to fly home, I wasn't just leaving Portland, I was bringing Alex with me. In my heart. And soon, in every part of my life. Flying back to New York felt surreal. Portland had given me something I hadn't known I needed. Alex. And with him, a fragile sense of hope. But reality waited impatiently at JFK. Returning to the city meant returning to the ghost of Ryan and the memories I had tried so desperately to bury. Alex sat beside me on the plane, sketchbook balanced on his knees. He drew quietly, the gentle scratch of his pencil a soothing background to my anxiety. Every so often, he'd glance at me, those hazel eyes full of calm and reassurance. "You okay?" he asked softly. "I don't think so," I admitted, though the knot in my stomach refused to untangle completely. "Just back to reality, you know." He nodded. "Reality can be messy, but it doesn't have to be lonely." I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. Once we landed, the city greeted us with its usual chaos, horns honking, people bustling, neon signs flickering. It was familiar, comforting in its own harsh way. But as we stepped into the apartment I had left empty for weeks, the memories of Ryan's betrayal clung to the corners like dust. The first few days were tentative. Alex helped me unpack, moving boxes here and there with a casual ease that made me wonder if he was always this natural with my chaos. Every touch, every glance, reminded me of Portland, the laughter, the hand-holding, the park bench where we first truly connected. "I don't want to push too fast," he said one evening as we curled up on my couch, a blanket draped over both of us. "But I also don't want to hide how I feel." I leaned my head on his shoulder, inhaling his scent. "You don't. I don't want this too. I just my past. Ryan. Evan," he murmured, stroking my hair. "Your past doesn't have to dictate your future. Not with me." And for a while, didn't. Life settled into a rhythm of stolen mornings, coffee runs, and quiet evenings filled with conversation and laughter. Alex became my anchor, a presence that made the city feel less harsh, more alive. And yet, beneath the warmth, there was a tension I couldn't ignore, the world outside our bubble, the inevitability of judgment, the reminders of betrayal. It all came to a head one Thursday evening. I had been invited to a dinner party by a colleague, a fancy affair in Midtown. Alex had insisted on coming with me, though I could tell he wasn't entirely comfortable with the formal crowd. "You'll love it," I said, hoping to mask my own nervousness. "Just stick with me." He smirked. "Stick with you? I don't need a map. Evan, you're my GPS." I laughed, but the tension in my chest didn't ease. The party was a whirlwind of clinking glasses and polite conversation. People asked the usual questions: work, travel, hobbies. And then, of course, someone asked, innocuously enough, "So who's this handsome man you brought along?" Alex smiled warmly. "I'm Alex. Evan and I met on a trip to Portland. He saved me from a donut crisis." Laughter followed. I wanted to melt into my drink, disappear entirely. But Alex had a way of making everyone feel at ease. His charm effortless, his presence grounding me. But then came the whisper of disaster. "Evan, I didn't know Ryan was your ex," a woman at the party said casually, sipping her wine. "Wow, small world. I met him a few months ago. He said he's dating Jessica again." I froze. My hand tightened around my glass. The room seemed to tilt slightly, and for a moment, I felt Portland slip away, replaced by the suffocating presence of old heartbreak. Alex noticed immediately. His hand found mine under the table, a quiet anchor in the storm. "Evan," he whispered, voice calm. "Are you okay?" Yeah. I lied. forcing a smile. But the words felt hollow. Memories of Ryan laughing at our wedding. Memories of betrayal. All rushed back like a tide I couldn't stop. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. I couldn't shake the unease. The gnawing thought that Ryan's shadow still lingered over my life. Alex tried to lighten the mood, cracking jokes and nudging me with playful confidence. But I could feel the tension building, a fragile thread threatening to snap. The following days were worse. My mind replayed the dinner party over and over, dissecting every interaction, every whisper. I avoided Alex at times, needing space to process. But each distance created a silent rift that neither of us wanted. One evening, I found myself standing on the fire escape, staring at the skyline, lost in thought. Alex appeared quietly behind me. "Evan," he said softly, "don't shut me out." "I need time," I admitted, voice tight. "It's just seeing Ryan's name again reminded me of everything. I don't want to hurt you, Alex, but I can't just pretend I'm fine." He stepped closer, hand brushing mine. "You don't have to pretend. That's what I'm here for, to be with you, through the good and the messy. The past is the past, Evan. It doesn't define us." I turned to face him, searching his eyes for any hint of doubt. There was none. Only warmth, patience, and a quiet insistence that I could lean on him without fear. "I'm scared," I confessed. "Scared that I'll mess this up, that I'll push you away." He smiled softly. "Evan, being scared doesn't mean you're failing. It means you care. And I care too. That's all that matters." We stayed on the fire escape for hours, talking and holding each other. The city hummed below, distant and indifferent, while we carved out a small world of safety and intimacy. The next week brought a test I hadn't anticipated. Ryan, of course, reappeared in the most inconvenient way possible in social media, tagged in a photo with mutual friends, smiling with Jessica as if nothing had ever happened. My chest tightened at the sight. Old wounds opened, raw and stinging. Alex noticed immediately. He pulled me aside, calm and grounded. "Evan, look at me. You're not that person anymore. I'm here. We're here. Don't let him take your peace." "I know," I said, but my voice wavered. "It's just seeing him. It brings it all back." He pulled me into a hug, firm and protective. "Then let it back. And then let it go. I'll hold you while you do." I cried into his shoulder, the grief of betrayal mixing with relief, with the intoxicating warmth of being seen and loved again. For the first time, I allowed myself to be completely vulnerable, without shame, without fear of rejection. Alex held me through it all, a steady presence, a living reminder that not all love wounds you. Some love heals. The weeks that followed were transformative. We navigated the city together, discovering hidden coffee shops, rooftop gardens, and late-night diners. Each experience strengthened our bond, turning tentative attraction into deep affection. I learned to trust again, slowly, cautiously, but with a growing sense of certainty. And then, one rainy evening, something shifted again, this time in the most unexpected way. We were walking through Central Park, the city drenched in gold reflections from streetlights. Alex slipped on a wet patch, and I grabbed him instinctively. Our bodies collided, and in that moment, the world fell away. He laughed, breathless, I sparkling, and I laughed too, the sound mingling with the rain. And then, without thinking, without hesitation, I kissed him. The rain fell around us, soaking our clothes, blurring the lights, but we didn't care. The kiss was urgent, tender, and entirely ours, a promise that we had survived the past and were choosing each other. Right here, right now. When we finally pulled back, breathless and laughing, he whispered, "I've wanted that for days." "Me too," I admitted, heart racing, still holding him close. From that moment, everything felt different. The fear of betrayal, the shadows of Ryan, the anxieties of the past, they all faded into insignificance. Alex was no longer just a connection from a trip. He was my partner, my anchor, my home. Evenings became our sacred time. We cooked together, danced in the kitchen to music no one else would hear, and fell asleep tangled in each other's arms. Life wasn't perfect, there were still moments of doubt, of fear, but together, we faced them. One night, as we lay under the soft glow of fairy lights in my apartment, Alex traced circles on my arm and murmured, "Evan, thank you for letting me in, for trusting me." I kissed his forehead, heart full. "No, Alex, thank you for showing me that love doesn't have to hurt, that it can be kind, patient, and beautiful." And in that quiet, simple exchange, I understood something profound. I had been broken, yes. I had been hurt, yes. But love, real, enduring love, had found me again. And this time, I wasn't afraid to embrace it fully. The next few weeks settled into a rhythm that was both comforting and exhilarating. Alex and I were inseparable. We explored New York like tourists, even though it was my home. We laughed at street performers in Times Square, argued over the best pizza slice in Brooklyn, and got lost in the endless stacks of Strand bookstore, finding little corners to share whispered secrets. Every touch, every glance, every accidental brush of hands carried the weight of intimacy and excitement. But life, it seemed, had a cruel sense of timing. One Saturday afternoon, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. Hesitant, I answered. "Evan, it's Jessica." My heart skipped. I hadn't expected her voice, smooth and familiar, yet laced with something unplaceable guilt. Malice. I didn't know. "What do you want?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "I just wanted to talk. About Ryan." I clenched my fists. "There's nothing to talk about. You two made your choice. I made mine." There was a pause. Then she said softly, "I'm sorry, for everything. For the wedding. For hurting you. I just needed to hear it." I didn't respond. I ended the call and stared at the phone, chest tight. My mind whirled with memories. Anger, betrayal, humiliation. The wounds I had thought were healing threatened to open again. Alex noticed immediately when I met him for dinner that evening. "Evan, what's wrong?" I shook my head, trying to force a smile. "It's nothing. Just old ghosts." He didn't push, didn't ask more. He took my hand across the table, thumb stroking mine. "We can face ghosts together," he said softly. And yet, the next day brought another blow. I received a work email with Ryan's name in the CC. Linehy had joined a project with my company temporarily. My stomach dropped. I felt the world tilt, the floor beneath me unstable. Alex was calm, grounding, but even he couldn't shield me from the waves of panic. "Evan, you can't control him. You can control how you react. And right now, we react together." We spent that night talking, long into the early hours. I told him everything, how the betrayal had cut me deeply, how every encounter with Ryan now threatened to unravel me. Alex listened, never judging, offering words of comfort and strength. "You're stronger than you know," he said finally, pulling me into his arms. "And you don't have to face him alone." The days that followed were tense. I avoided direct confrontation with Ryan, but he seemed to appear at every turn at work, in mutual friends' posts, in fleeting mentions. The anxiety gnawed at me, testing the foundation Alex and I had built. One night, after a particularly stressful day at work, I broke down completely. I called Alex from the office parking lot, voice trembling. I can't do this. I can't face him. I feel like it's all falling apart. Within minutes, he was there, leaning against my car, eyes full of worry and unwavering commitment. Evan, he said, voice firm yet gentle. Look at me. This isn't about Ryan. It's about us. I'm here. We can face him together. Or not at all. But you're not alone. I buried my face in his chest, letting the tears fall freely. I'm scared. I know, he whispered. And that's okay. Scared is human. Courage is choosing someone anyway. And I choose you, every single day. That night, we stayed together in my apartment, holding each other close. The city outside buzzed and hummed. But inside, time seemed suspended. The fear lingered, but Alex's presence made it bearable. The following week brought the unavoidable encounter. A company meeting. Everyone gathered. And there he was, Ryan, smiling. Oblivious to the storm he still stirred in my chest. My palms were sweaty, my throat dry. Alex stayed by my side, his hand brushing mine under the table. I drew strength from that simple, grounding touch. Ryan approached, extending a hand with a forced smile. Evan, it's been a while. I shook his hand, voice measured. Yes, it has. He tried small talk, but I deflected, polite but distant. Every word, every glance reminded me of the past. But Alex's quiet presence anchored me. When Ryan finally left, I exhaled, relief flooding me. Later, Alex pulled me into a quiet stairwell. See, you survived. And look at you, you didn't crumble. You're stronger than you think. I nodded, leaning against him. I couldn't have done it without you. And in that moment, I realized the depth of my feelings. This wasn't just attraction. This wasn't just comfort. This was love, the kind that demanded trust, patience, and courage. Weeks turned into months. Ryan faded from my immediate world, a shadow that grew smaller and smaller. Alex and I flourished. We celebrated birthdays, holidays, and even mundane weekdays with the same enthusiasm. He was my anchor, my constant, my home. One chilly December evening, we decorated my apartment for the holidays. String lights twinkled, ornaments glimmered, and the smell of baked cookies filled the air. Alex handed me a small, neatly wrapped box. What's this? I asked, curiosity piqued. Open it, he said, eyes twinkling. Inside was a tiny sketchbook. On the first page was a drawing of us, holding hands in Central Park, rain falling around us. The next pages chronicled our months together, laughter, quiet moments, adventures. Alex, this is amazing, I said, overwhelmed. He shrugged, modestly, but his eyes were alight. I wanted to capture us, all of us, every messy, wonderful moment. I leaned forward, pressing my lips to his. I love you, I whispered. I love you too, Evan, he replied, smiling against my lips. That night, wrapped in blankets on the couch, we made promises not just of love, but of trust, patience, and unwavering support. We talked about the future, about the life we wanted to build together, knowing that challenges would come, but confident we could face them side by side. Spring arrived, and with it, new beginnings. We moved into a larger apartment together, filling it with laughter, art, and love. Our friends marveled at the transformation, how Evan, once broken and wary, now radiated happiness. How Alex's presence seemed to light up every room he entered. One sunny afternoon, we walked through Prospect Park, hand in hand. Children played around us. Dogs barked, and the scent of blooming flowers hung in the air. I looked at Alex, feeling the warmth in my chest spread like sunlight. "You know," I said, smiling, "I never thought I'd find this again. Not after everything." He squeezed my hand. "I know, and I'm grateful every day that you let me in." I laughed softly. "I guess life has a funny way of proving you wrong. Just when you think all hope is lost. It surprises you," he finished, leaning closer, "with something better than you could imagine." I rested my head on his shoulder, letting the world fade. The scars of the past were still there, faint reminders of lessons learned. But they no longer defined me. I was whole, loved, and fiercely, unapologetically happy. As the sun set over the park, casting golden light over the city, Alex and I shared a quiet kiss. It was soft, intimate, and filled with the weight of all we had endured together. For the first time in my life, I felt truly free. And in Alex's arms, I knew, with absolute certainty, that love could be patient, kind, and worth every risk. The heartbreak had been real, the betrayal sharp, but the love we had found, our love was stronger. It was enduring. It was home, and nothing could take that away. Summer arrived in New York with a warmth that seemed to seep into every corner of our lives. Alex and I had settled into a rhythm that was comfortable yet exciting. The kind that only comes when two people know, without a doubt, that they belong together. We spent mornings wandering through farmers' markets, tasting fresh produce and laughing at our failed attempts to pick the perfect fruits. Afternoons were for quiet strolls through the city, discovering little hidden gems, a tiny bookstore tucked behind a cafe, a street mural painted by local artists, a secluded bench in Riverside Park overlooking the Hudson. Every day was an adventure, and every adventure was better because we were together. One Saturday morning, Alex woke me with a gentle shake. "Come on, sleepyhead," he whispered, his hazel eyes glinting with mischief. "I have a surprise for you." I groaned, stretching and rubbing my eyes, but the smile tugging at my lips betrayed my excitement. "You always say that," I mumbled, "and somehow, I end up loving it every time." He laughed, a soft, warm sound that made my chest flutter. "Well, some habits are worth keeping." He led me to the subway, and after a short ride, we emerged into the sunlit streets of Brooklyn. We walked a few blocks until we reached a small ferry terminal. I stopped, realizing what he had planned. "You're taking me to the water?" I asked, incredulous, though my heart leapt with anticipation. Alex grinned. "Better. We're taking a sunset cruise. Just the two of us." My chest tightened, a mixture of awe and affection. I hadn't experienced anything this intimate in months, maybe years. The ferry rocked gently as we boarded, the smell of the river mingling with the warm breeze. We found a quiet spot on the upper deck, the city skyline glowing in the late afternoon sun. Alex pulled me close, his arm around my shoulders. "I wanted this," he murmured. "Just us. No past. No distractions. No shadows. Just now." I rested my head on his shoulder, feeling the tension of months melt away. "It's perfect," I whispered. "Thank you for everything. For being patient with me. For choosing me." He tilted his head, pressing a soft kiss to my temple. "Evan, you're worth every moment. Every struggle. Every doubt. I choose you 1,000 times over." As the ferry glided along the river, the city reflected in shimmering gold and crimson hues. I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. The heartbreak of the past seemed distant, almost unreal. Ryan and Jessica were shadows fading into irrelevance, unable to touch the happiness we were building together. Weeks passed like this, filled with quiet moments of joy, shared dreams, and a love that felt both tender and unshakable. We cooked together, experimenting with new recipes, laughing when sauces boiled over or cookies burned. We danced in our living room to music that no one else would hear, spinning and laughing, holding each other close. One evening, as the city lights blinked awake outside our window, Alex pulled out a small box, simple and elegant. I raised an eyebrow, my heart skipping. "What's this?" I asked, though a part of me already knew. He smiled, the kind of smile that made my knees weak. "Open it." Inside was a delicate silver ring, understated but beautiful, with a small, gleaming stone that caught the light like a captured sunbeam. My hands trembled as I looked up at him, eyes wide. "Evan," he said softly, "these months with you, they've been the best of my life. I don't want to imagine a future without you. Will you marry me?" Time seemed to halt. My heart raced, tears pricking at the corners of my eyes. I felt the weight of everything, the pain of betrayal, the loneliness, the fear of trusting again, all dissolve in the warmth of his gaze. "Yes," I whispered, voice shaking. "Yes, Alex, I will." He slid the ring onto my finger, and we held each other close, the city outside a blur of light and noise. In that moment, there was only us, only the love we had nurtured through fear and doubt, heartbreak and healing. The engagement brought a new kind of joy. We shared the news with friends and family, their excitement and support enveloping us like a warm embrace. There were no dramatic interruptions, no echoes of past pain, only laughter, congratulations, and the quiet certainty that we had found something rare and enduring. Planning the wedding was a new adventure, one filled with compromise, shared visions, and moments of unspoken understanding. Alex and I discovered the joy of collaboration, the thrill of imagining a life together, of creating memories that would last forever. On the day of the wedding, we chose a small garden ceremony, the air filled with the scent of blooming roses and the gentle hum of summer insects. Friends and family gathered, their faces bright with happiness, their hearts open and supportive. As I walked down the aisle, heart pounding, I caught Alex's eye. He stood there, smiling, eyes glistening with emotion. The world seemed to fall away, leaving only him, only us, only the promise we had built together. When we exchanged vows, I felt the words not as a formality, but as a living truth. "I promise to love you, to trust you, and to choose you every day," I whispered, voice steady despite the tears. Alex's response was equally heartfelt, the sincerity in his eyes more profound than anything I had ever known. "I promise to be your anchor, your partner, your home, and your greatest supporter. I choose you, now and forever." The ceremony ended with laughter, tears, and a kiss that sealed our promises. Friends cheered, petals rained down, and for the first time, I felt a completeness I had thought impossible. Life after the wedding was a continuation of the happiness we had fought to build. We traveled, explored, laughed, and supported each other in ways that made every challenge lighter. Even mundane moments, grocery shopping, quiet mornings with coffee, late-night walks felt extraordinary because we shared them together. We faced difficulties, of course, work stress, minor disagreements, the occasional doubt, but these moments only strengthened our bond. We learned to communicate, to forgive, to lean on each other without fear. Our love became not just a feeling, but a foundation, resilient and enduring. Years later, sitting together on a bench in Central Park, the place where so much had begun, I reflected on our journey. The pain, the betrayal, The heartbreak they had shaped me, made me stronger, more appreciative of the love I had now. Alex squeezed my hand, eyes warm and knowing, thinking about the past again. He asked softly. I shook my head, smiling. Not really, just grateful. For you, for us, for the life we've built. He leaned his head on my shoulder. Me too, Evan. Me too. As the sun dipped below the skyline, casting a golden glow over the city, I realized something profound. Happiness isn't the absence of pain, but the presence of someone who makes life brighter, more meaningful, and endlessly worth living. And with Alex by my side, I knew that no heartbreak, no betrayal, no shadow from the past could ever dim the love we had found. We had survived the storm. We had healed. And together, we would face whatever the future held hand in hand. Hearts intertwined, stronger than ever. Because love, real love, the kind that endures, heals, and grows, had found us. And it was more beautiful than I had ever imagined. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.